The story of the new set based on Ixalan will start in a few weeks, so it's time to recap the previous set. And as you can see, some fan favorite legends will return this set, with Quintorius weirdly being a new planeswalker and Wadley kicking off the main image for the new set. Our characters will once again be racing and exploring to find a new artifact. This time it will be the Inner Sun instead of the Immortal Sun, because this set will be staged on the inside of Ixalan. Quintorius is a new planeswalker and will fulfill the role of a great explorer, which already makes him fit for Ixalan. But as we are trying to find an Aether City with a lot of history, the ability to talk with spirits will come in handy too. With the Wadley, we're mostly curious about the resolution of her being drifted apart from Saheeli. The two lovers have been unable to find each other, and out of love they started to create the artifacts that made them think of each other. The gold-forged Thopteryx being made by Wadley, and the golden skill Aeronaut is wearing a sort of dinosaur-inspired flying machine, as well as he is finding the Phyrexian invasion. On the previous set we had 4 kinds of people who were fighting each other for the Immortal Sun. We had the merfolk, led by Kumena, who was mostly searching for the Immortal Sun. We had Admiral Beckett Brass, who was fighting for the pirates, but she was mostly keeping them back actually, but the pirates wanted to find the Immortal Sun anyways, because it's loot and golden. And then there's Wadley leading the Sun Empire with their dinosaurs, and we have Elenda, who was being fought for by the Dusk Legion of vampires. We will start with the merfolk, who were led by Kumena, as I said, to find the Immortal Sun. Kumena had found the overflowing insight that he wanted to find the Immortal Sun before his enemies. Instead of just defending the Immortal Sun against them, he thought it would be better to get it for himself. This is why he is also the Tyrant of the Golden City, because he forced many other merfolk to follow his lead. Kumena did find the Golden City first and started to influence it, before fittingly being dethroned by pirates. The leader was there first because he disregarded the merfolk culture of trying to keep a delicate balance in nature. Kumena became power hungry once he figured out that to keep the secrets of the Golden City away from the others, he might as well keep it for himself. The followers of Kumena feel like the rivers and the forests should reclaim their places, and this is one of the 2 philosophies for the merfolk, as we will see in a bit. Kumena strode upwards towards the power at the top of the tower and took control of the elements there. This made him ascend, the last card being very flavorful with this fact, because Kumena's awakening meant that no one else could take the knowledge of the city that he found in the city of Oraska. But there are more voices in the merfolk faction. Most of them wanted to stay in their lanes. Kopala, being a warden of the waves, would help sink all the ships that would dare to come close to the continent of Ixalan. Ixalan is a continent on the plane of Ixalan. And there is Tashana, who is a voice or a speaker for the most powerful bursts of nature. But even Tashana would prefer to let nature to it itself, and to nurture the jungles and rivers to let nature reclaim itself. Ascanta showing us a lot of the history of the merfolk. It sunk after a long-lasting conflict between 2 same types of factions who wanted to force nature or wanted to nurture nature. When the merfolk found it again, they must have learned a lot about what this infighting does to the faction. We learned from Itlamok, the last card, that the merfolk were there coexisting with humans long before the Sun Empire was born. The merfolk were not the only guardians of the city. While they tried to keep the Sun Empire out, the Golden Guardians were already being automatically made to ward off any invaders who would come to the city. And we have the Dryads, who might not fight much, but they amount to a large power on Ixalan because a lot of it exists out of jungles that strengthen these Dryads. When peaceful creatures are hurt, the Dryads provide aid together with their army of saplings to find them. You can see them in the art here with the Tendershoe Dryad, and in the art here with the Old Growth Dryad. The merfolk, while not necessarily peaceful like the dryads, are connected with nature. It protects them, hides them from harm, and keeps them united. This is why the merfolk go to the deep-root tree to get rebooted basically, and find a nice piece of their society in return. Now there are some other merfolk, like I said, who follow Kumena but not necessarily follow him himself, just his philosophy, where other merfolk keep shaping the nature, and these are called the shapers, naturally. Maybe they've been away from their deep roots for too long, but the shapers are merfolk who turn long-standing trees to life, shape the rivers, and wreck ships. Do note that these shapers do not work randomly, but they still try to keep a balance. Shapers of Nature says, shapers adapt nature to fit their needs and return it to the way it was, leaving no trace. And with the powers of nature, the deep-rooted merfolk fight to keep the balance. They use their powers of nature to keep others from exploring, and they warn the other factions of using the immortal sun. But they are afraid of it, thinking it will only bring devastation when the immortal sun is found and used. Probably because they have been indoctrinated by some planeswalker to keep the immortal sun safe from certain other planeswalkers. Every faction has their own reasons, but the merfolk do fight the other factions, and I will show this for the other factions too. Here we see them fight dinosaurs. The Shana even roasts the big-footed ones for making splashes instead of progress in River Darter. The merfolk splice pirate ships in twain, as this card said, and without being seen they misdirect the vampires from their goals. Now here's a bit of foreshadowing for the rest of this story of Ixalan, but Ixalan has been invaded. The merfolk were the first to notice, and here we see how they shape, war and defend Ixalan. With one press to the tree, this merfolk scout lets every merfolk know that Ixalan should prepare for war before an invasion happens. We go on to the Sun Empire. This faction is more established in a city, and this Naya-colored faction strives to keep the balance in society by religiously following the values of their primordial dinosaurs. Pachatupa is their capital with an emperor at their heart. Even though we don't really see the emperor a lot, he does influence these people to stay close to their homes, while still conquering more of the world. While Huatli said, no, we shouldn't do that, we should try to protect the nature as it is right now. Other than being connected to each other, the Sun Empire is connected to dinosaurs, even going as far as becoming one. The Sun Empire has at least one new recruit in Callan, the fairy prince of Eldraine. Here we see the new mechanic around exploring too, which is to make maps. Callan for 1 mana makes 1, 2, 3 of these maps, so I suppose that these might help you explore when you sacrifice one. So look at the top of your library. If it's a land, you may play it. If it's not, you may, I think, discard it and get a +1 counter or keep it on the top of your library. We do also see that Callan has gotten his weapons, which he got from his dad, more under control. So I am curious to see who Callan really is and to see his real identity form in this set. One more established Sun Empire warrior is Huatli. She has been controlling dinosaurs very easily, which is her main power, making the dinosaurs proud to bear Huatli on their backs. Huatli is a warrior and a poet, and her words have inspired the Sun Empire soldiers to great length, even getting them together. But her biggest achievement is controlling the primal calamity, Sakama, who is as strong as the 3 suns combined. Now Sakama is a huge monster, and to bring it under your control requires a lot of power, as you can imagine, but it's even more impressive because the Sun Empire usually does not really control their dinosaurs. They do not lead and the dino doesn't follow. They walk together, usually, but Huatli chose something else. Now Huatli is the poet of unity, bringing all sorts of dinosaurs under her control, together with their humans. And her other side of this card, the Roar of the Fifth People, is very interesting too, because I think they mean that the Sun Empire is the 5th people of Ixalan. The merfolk being 1 earlier people, I wonder who the earlier ones were. For 5 mana this story gets 2 dinosaurs under your banner, Then it helps your people come together for a more explosive dino to enter the battlefield. This effect sticks around for as long as the War of the Fifth People goes on. Then you get to search for that big dino that you were looking for, and then the war finishes by giving your dino army double strike and trample, which might help you finish the game at that point. Well, it must. Worldly is poised to go out with a bang in this story. Talking about that, going out with a bang is prescribed by the Seers of Ixalan because merfolk shaper Pashona has seen that the fire will rain down from the sky once the immortal sun was captured. And this leads me to believe that in the new set, the fact that the immortal sun has been removed might unleash these powers of fire onto the world. And we will see who this god is, because this god has been released in the new set. It's Ojer Axonil, the deepest might. This is the god that lives under the earth and seems to emerge onto the lands in his card here. It's a bit of a weird card from the new set because we do see that its arm is a dino and it has a sort of sun around its head. So it seems like it should be allied to the Sun Empire. But in the background we see the bats that are described as being the immortal enemies of the Sun Empire. So we are really left to wonder whose side Ojer Axonil is really on. And we do learn that the sun is not really the core of the strength for all of Ixalan, because in the flavor it says that Chimil, the inner sun, gave the inner people of Old Deck passion, but Ojer Axonil is really what helps them harness that power. I'm interested to see how much of this is true for the Sun Empire too, because they have their own sun's avatars, and it might be that these dinos give the Sun Empire the ability to harness their own sun powers. Speaking about suns and their avatars, there are three. In order, they are the Awakening Sun, Kinjali, who shaped the humans from clay and the dinosaurs from stone. The Verdant Sun, Ixali, which helps the dinosaurs grow together with the jungle. And then the Burning Sun, Tilonari, who will eventually destroy everything and bring everything back to darkness. Now, we have one of the gods who was linked to Tilonari, but I wonder if the other two get their own gods as well. The Burning Sun has a bunch of followers who live according to the ferocity of the sun, as we see in Tilonari's Skin Shifter. Then the Awakening Sun's priests welcome the sun every day because it rises every day, and they more than anyone else respect the dinosaurs as a stronger being than the humans. And then the followers of Ixali try to take care of the dinosaurs, allowing them to grow and be wild under Ixali's light. Now there's one other type of old dinosaur, which are the elder dinosaurs, who were allowed to grow the longest under the protection of the Golden Sun and the Golden City. This is a cycle with a dino for every color, so this also sort of shows us that there are more gods to come, and these stand for their own colors' strengths. There's Tetsimok for death, Netzohal for the tides of the sea and rivers, and then in the sun's colors there is Itali for the storms, Galta for hunger, which is an element on Ixalan with all of these dinosaurs, and Setalpa for the dawn. These sun elders are all saying something about the earth as well. The storm makes it break, Galta makes it walk, and Setalpa makes it tremble. Speaking about trample though, Galta, Walker of the Earth, seems to have a friend card in Skullspore Nexus from the new set. It almost made me think that Galta was dead, and it still pretty much makes me think that, because the skull's mechanic is the same as Galta's, sort of. It costs X less to play, where X has something to do with power. And then whenever a creature dies, you get to return them as a fungi with their other combined powers. Now while we know that Galta lives somewhere in this set, we might start to think that Galta is on his second life. Perhaps he even dies along with all of these other giants to become one giant spore dino. Might be later than the card we see here, but it seems like he does. One elder that we know is dead is Itali, who had been turned into a Phyrexian, and all Phyrexians should be sleeping forever now. Though we know that some of the people who should be sleeping forever have been revived through the power of friendship, so that is one thing that might happen to him. Back to the Empire, because they're looking for the immortal sun, mostly because they think that it will unite their people and help them flourish. The Immortal Sun's name mostly is a symbol for their nation, so their pride forces them to go and find it. And in their search they eat a bunch of vampires, who by the way don't handle the sun too well. In the dark the vampires become stronger, and that's why they hate the sun. They do endure the sun, but the dinos are strengthened by the same sun, so put those two effects together and you get two factions that want to fight at different times of the day. The Sun Empire even fights the River Heralds, even though they haven't really done anything wrong to them, not out of hate, but because the Heralds try to hinder them in their search. The Sun Empire bends the nature and rivers without returning them to their usual states like the merfolk do, so they must be a little bit of enemies in any case. And the pirates are fought too, mostly because the pirates aren't really careful with what they are doing and they're being punished by the monsters for it. The Sun Empire have been most fervently fighting the fractions in their invasion. Their fury tries to push them back, and their monsters were not allowed to breed on Ixalan's soil because of the sailbags that sleep in their rivers. The humans of Ixalan were hit where their power came from the sun, their shadows could not be protected and have been fractionized, which is pretty metal, but we know that. Onto the nobles of Ixalan, the pirates. Because yes, the pirates do have a noble heritage on another continent, even though they don't act noble now. They do build new societies, like when Captain Vance blasted her cannons into a mountain to create a new city or a fortress with new cannons to shoot at their enemies. And like the floating city of High and Dry, this city is made by ships that were coming to harbor there, but as there was enough to plunder in between those ships, the city would stay longer and longer, eventually never having the ships leaving port. And their leader is Admiral Bracket Brass, who does still sail the seas, and she keeps bringing new ships to the city of High and Dry. She has stolen the most of her ships and keeps stealing more for her fleet, and she keeps sailing because of it, but she also thinks that when there is enough gold, more plunder is not needed, which is very rare for a pirate. Some other notable pirates are Chase, who is fighting alongside it. He has been stranded on Ixalan because of the Immortal Sun, preventing planeswalkers from leaving. He would scare pirates away with his illusions of monsters and is therefore very needed on a pirate ship. And he was forced to regain all of his memories eventually, even the ones he had stored away because they were too harsh. Together with him on the ship, in the riggings, is Vraska, who mostly has been enjoying herself on the mission for Nicol Bolas. She would regain her powers over the Golgari by finishing this mission for the Elder Dragon. She was soon known in High and Dry as the new captain and would steer her crew towards finding the Immortal Sun. And by using the compass gotten from Nicol Bolas, they would be the ones to find the actual Immortal Sun, an artifact made by Bolas to keep planeswalkers on the plane. And just before they could take it away, Bolas would take it from Vraska, or so it seemed to Bolas. Because in actuality, Jace, who had fallen in love with Vraska, had stolen her memories again, and then had instilled a new will to indeed give Bolas the sun, mostly because it would help Vraska to get what she wants while staying alive. But eventually, Vraska would remember once Jace would invite her for tea, even though we haven't canonically seen this happen. We do know that Vraska has taken Jace away to somewhere and suspect that it will be on the Finland racing set. Swept with the sun was Azor, leader of the Azorius on Ravnica, or the creator at least. This Sphinx had been influencing worlds to stand against Nicol Bolas and has been trapped forward, bringing Sphinxes on these planes wherever he came. So whenever you see a Sphinx on a plane, you might be sure that Azor has been there. Onto other pirates, because we have two more notable ones. Captain Lannery Storm is leading a crew of magic-using pirates who, for example, have learned to use extreme supersonic speed. And we have Angrath and his crew, who have been mostly just destroying everything they find, because Angrath couldn't find a way home towards his family, and has chosen to start destroying everything instead. Then we have some fleets like the Dire Fleet. These are the daring Rakdos colored pirates who have been plundering more than anything. They are the fleet that mostly harbors their orcs, and the orcs have to keep fighting, otherwise they become angry. And then there's the Storm Fleet, who use their elemental powers of mostly fire against their conquerors, and Tempest Scholar, who says that she is the storm. And then there are two creature types that are very important to pirates because they need the sirens to help them control the storms, which is very much necessary against the merfolk shapers, and the goblins, who just love to make everything burn, so they fit with the pirates, and they often use the dangerous cannons, sniffle out looting opportunities, and are the first to jump onto other ships with bombs attached. Most famous among those goblins is Breaches, who in the previous story was last seen in control of the Golden City, funnily enough where people could vote for the faction that should win, and the pirates were the fan favorites. He has become stronger, it seems, because 3/3 goblins are rare, and this one helps his crew find loot, scarce blockers, and find new opportunities for exploring. Now the pirates fight the other factions as well, mostly against the vampires, but they seem to mostly care about their loot more than destroying their old mortal enemies. Then they are fighting the merfolk as well, mostly because they are the only ones ruthless enough to kill these usually peaceful creatures. And even they are fighting the Sun Empire, as we see in the fact that this goblin is using dinosaur liver oil to fill up his cannon and make it shoot better. Now on to the main antagonists of the story, who are the Legion of Dusk. These vampires are not what you expect from their usual kind vampires. The Church of Dusk says that every vampire has to sacrifice, mostly by sacrificing their lusts and by sacrificing their enemies to drink from them. The main vampire is Elenda, and this is an elder vampire that has been sleeping under the mortal sun until it has been found. The Legion of Dusk searches for the immortal sun because they believe it will give them immortal life without having to drink blood. They now feel safe to awaken their elders because these vampires have become more and more slave to their lusts as they become older, even killing other vampires. So eventually they had to be put to a long-lasting slumber, but now that the immortal sun is near, their hunger might be stilled soon and they are awakened once more. We even learn that the vampires believe that the sun had been stolen from them. To show you about the implications of blood hunger, we look at Arguel, who had a vision from the bad god of night, who is canonically noted here as the Eternal Empire's enemy. The eternal enemy to the beautiful sun, at least as the flavor says. Arguel had been keeping himself from drinking blood until he would get his vision, and it led him to the temple of Eglazots. Then he chose to take up eating exorbitant amounts of blood again. Mavren Fane had his own bloodfast too, after which he destroyed his own compasses so that he could show that he could steer his army just on faith alone. But we also learn that after the blood fast comes the most religious moment for these vampires, where the craving will turn the vampire into thirsty blood killers, making them even kill merfolk and harmless dinosaurs. This weird bond makes it even more impressive that Galta and Mavren became short-lasting friends to fight off the Phyrexians. Fona is a legendary vampire because she is known for her massive amounts of hunger, even getting her to make you sacrifice half of the creatures that you control. She has butchered whole cities and has led a large amount of vampiric armies. She also became friends with Mavren, uniting Crown and Church. Fona's hunger is showing us a really flavorful ascension as well. If Fona would find the immortal sun, this would mean that she wouldn't be killing her own friends anymore because the hunger has been stilled more than her hunger leads her to her religious beliefs. So this means that you don't have to sacrifice along with your enemies. Third important vampire is the one who landed, Adrian Adanto, who created the first fort in his name. He was apparently part of the Sanctum Seekers, who were indeed the first and most zealous. The main rule for vampires is that they only eat from their enemies. Doing so is even seen as holy because they eradicate the heretics and rebels of their empire. We see this here, for example, the blood of the enemy is a sacrament strength it gives is proof that our cause is just. So because they become stronger, they believe that what they do is right. The vampires sometimes fight pirates because they are rebels to their kingdom, but mostly they fight the Sun Empire because the vampires hate the sun. Most harsh of these flavors is that of the Sky Marcher. I will catch you, child of the sun, I will drink your life and leave you a husk, discarded in the shadows. In the invasion, we see one of the vampire ships being turned for action too. I just find this funny. Now lastly, we have the demons on Ixalan. Stories say that this horse has demonic blood, demons lurk in the shadows of ancient ruins, and they defy the sun's cleansing rays. We learn this because in the new set we will see angels, demons and gods. These demons have been foreshadowed 6 years ago. Imagine the fun of actually bringing them to life after all this time. And we do also get to see a glimpse of these demons, and this will be the second faction that we know about, aside from the raging god of fiery death that we saw before. Other than this, I want to thank you for watching, and we will look at the set when it drops.